And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 142 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. This show was created as a safe space for cancer patients, survivors, and supporters from all around the world show up right here to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. My name is Tim Sohn, and I'm the host and creator of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. Thank you so much for joining us. Let us know where you're tuning in from around the world and what is your connection to cancer. I am a cancer patient and warrior. I'm a 18-year survivor of chronic myeloid leukemia. So let us know in the chat, what is your connection to cancer? And I'm also here in Northeast Pennsylvania. Also, I would encourage you to hit the share button, maybe tag some friends, let your colleagues, friends, family know about the show to spread the word about this conversation that I'm so looking forward to tonight. If you are ready for our guest, type in the chat, heck yeah. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Jessica Whorton. Jessica, a fierce breast cancer survivorship advocate, is an accomplished human resources professional with a passion for helping others. Diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 33, she has been a 12-year survivor and a proud mama to her daughters. Jessica's journey through cancer has only fueled her determination to make a difference in the lives of others facing similar challenges. Let's welcome Jess to the show. Hi, Jess.
Hi. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you so much for being on the show. It's great to have you here. Let us know, where are you joining us from?
I am in Las Cruces, New Mexico, so I'm enjoying the sun.
Oh, New Mexico. I used to live in New Mexico. My first job after college was working at a newspaper in Farmington, New Mexico. Have you ever been there?
Gosh. No, I've never been.
No.
But I know
Okay.
that it's probably a small town, right?
It's pretty small. It's in the Four Corners area of New Mexico. It's in, I think, the northwest quarter. Yeah. But Yolanda is here. She says hello. Welcome, Yolanda. I wish I had my goat with me, but I see you got the goat emoji going on there. Yeah, but everybody who's here live or on the replay, let us know where you're tuning in from and your connection to cancer. So Jess, take us back to when you found out that you were diagnosed with cancer at just age 33, right?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed at 33 with stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma, breast cancer. I had gone 9 months with visible lumps that were not breast cancer, but they were the precursor to it. And I was told it didn't feel like cancer and I was too young to have it. So I went that long without doing anything about it. Just went about my business, busy mom, work. And when I got the cancer diagnosis, it was a shock because, you know, I was at the plastic surgeon's office, which is not common for them to do biopsies. And, you know, they weren't prepared to tell me either. This is not something that they handle on a daily basis. So their etiquette and their professionalism, you know, it was kind of lacking, I have to say, because they didn't know what to do. I'm in the office. This woman has cancer. What do we say to her? So after my diagnosis, I called my partner and we just cried in the car and figured out how we're going to move on.
Thank you for sharing that. Has anybody in your extended family had cancer before?
My grandmother had breast cancer when I was 10, but nobody else had cancer. And then after my diagnosis, 10 years after my diagnosis, my mom was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer. And she actually just passed away in January. So that's still fresh. And, thank you. Yeah, so it is in our family. And then my cousin was diagnosed at 45. So there has to be some kind of genetic link somewhere that hasn't been found yet.
Right. Yeah. I'm curious, with your mom and her cancer, how did her journey affect you, or did it in any ways?
Yeah, I was her caregiver for her final year. So that it was difficult to watch my mom pass away in that manner because there was nothing I could do. At the end, I
Right.
comforted her. So yeah, it was difficult to see my mom. And then I also have in the back of my mind, is this what my future is going to be? Is this what's going to happen to me 10 years, 15
Yeah.
years down the road? You just don't know. So
Yeah. Do you think there were any silver linings in your mom's cancer journey from your perspective?
yeah, because it brought us really close. Like it was a
Um,
common ground for us. We had a tumultuous relationship, and it really at the very end, it was just like how it was at the beginning of our relationship. I was very close to her, and so yeah, it was
yeah.
difficult, but I'm glad that she's not suffering anymore, and I can
Mhm.
speak out in her honor. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm really glad that I got the opportunity to do this.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing that and for being here. And everybody, we're here at Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with our awesome guest, Jess Whorton. Uh, yes, Jess, you've been a survivor now for 12 years. What has survivorship looked like for you, and how has your perspective evolved over time?
Sure. So survivorship is not a finish line. It's a lifelong recalibration of what you've been through. In the early years, it was about survival. I had skin anxiety. Every 3 months you have to go for checkups, and you just wonder in the back of your mind, you go from day to day, am I going to get cancer again? And my survivorship was a little bit different, my journey, because I had an allergy to chemotherapy. So I became a convalescent for
Oh.
several years afterwards, after that experience. And it has affected me still to this day. I'm not able to return to the workforce in a full-time capacity like I'd like to. Maybe
Mhm.
I'll get there, but one step at a time. So that's what survivorship
Yeah.
looks like to me. And then I've learned to make space for joy again and shed,
Mhm.
release the cancer journey that I was in. You're no longer a patient. When you become a survivor, right, after your treatment is done and you move on to survivorship, that looks a lot
Yeah.
different. And so
Yeah. For sure. For sure. I agree with that. 100%, 100,000%.
you're kind of just left there in the unknown. You're like, what's happening now? Everybody, because you got all of this attention beforehand, right? And now
Yeah.
they're not there. And you're like, what am I supposed to do? How do I move forward? But you find that. You find a way to move forward.
How did you go about doing that? Like, were there any tools that you found or any organizations or just other survivors or patients?
Sure. It was an entire community of people helping me get back on my feet. So my family, my extended family,
Nice.
um, the community support that I had through different organizations, lots of counseling, mental health, that's very, very important. So I definitely sought out treatment for that when I was depressed, and I'm
Yeah.
handling things a lot better now. So that's how I was able to make my way through that journey was just
Yeah.
one step at a time.
Yeah, definitely. One step at a time, one moment at a time, one day at a time, all the time. And I wanted to put up this comment by Tiffany. Tiffany said, I'm putting my little one to sleep, so I can't stay, but I just want to say how inspiring you are to him. I can relate to everything you were talking about, guys. Well,
Oh,
thank you for
yay.
being here. And Mary is here from Toronto. She's a cancer
Hi,
support.
Mary.
And Yolanda is here. She says, welcome, Jess. So,
Hi, Yolanda.
everybody. Yes, thank you all for being here. Jess, what would you say have been blessings in disguise for you through this journey?
Sure. So my daughters have been blessings in disguise. I had kids very young, right out of high school. And I often wondered if I had made the right choice. My friends are in college, they're all leading different lives. I'm changing diapers, they're at sororities, very, very different. And I wondered, is this the life I'm supposed to be living? And then I got divorced, and I questioned everything in my life that I had been through. And, it it wasn't until after, you know, I had been diagnosed and had that experience that I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Can you ask that
It's
question
okay.
again?
Take your time. Yeah, the question was, what blessings in disguise have you
Oh, sure.
discovered through your
Yes.
cancer journey?
Okay.
Yeah.
So definitely my daughters, because I'm not able to have children. At 35, I had a hysterectomy. So I wasn't able to
Oh.
have, I'm not able to have kids after that. My cancer was fueled by my hormones. So that was a necessary
Mm.
treatment step that I had to go through. And the fact that I had kids young and I was able to enjoy them when I was healthy was so important and such a huge blessing in disguise. And I just
Mhm.
cherished that time that I had with them when I, you know, was healthy and young, and that's what was supposed to happen in my life. You know, I was supposed to have kids
Yeah.
when I was young and move on and get cancer and move on from that journey as well. So I feel, you know, really, really that those are blessings in disguise for me, and the community support as well.
Mhm, mhm. How old were your kids when you got cancer?
8 and 14.
Okay. And how did you handle sharing with them about it, or did you, or
Oh, sure.
about the cancer?
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I had gotten really, really sick after my double mastectomy. I had a MRSA infection and then a pulmonary embolism. So I wasn't able to actually share the news with my children myself because I was so sick at the time.
Oh,
I was, you know,
wow.
had already started treatment when I got my you know, within 3 weeks I had my double mastectomy, and then a week after that is when I had my MRSA infection, and then a week after that is when I had my pulmonary embolism. So they all just kind of
Wow.
stacked up on
Yeah.
each other, and I didn't wasn't able to have the kind of conversation that I wanted to have with them. But when they graduated high school, I wrote both of my daughters letters, and I explained how, you know, I'm sorry that I got cancer, but that I love them so much and they mean the world to me, and they are my blessings, you know, and I feel very grateful to be able to
Yeah.
have them in my life. Yeah.
I love that you wrote those letters. That's such a good
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah. It's, and I saved them for myself as well. So I can reflect back on them on what I wrote. And it's really great. Yeah. To be able to do that.
Yeah, for sure. I always find it interesting how people handle telling their children, or when they tell their children, or whatever, because all of our journeys are so different,
Oh,
and
yes, absolutely.
everybody, everybody has to handle these situations in the way that's best for them, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have to do
And their
what's best for
family.
you and your family at the time, you know,
Yeah,
and that's all you can do.
for sure, for sure. And Ashik says, "We never know what cards we will get. The task is to play them."
Oh, I love that. That's great. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thanks for being here, Ashik. It's great to see you. Ashik, do you know Ashik?
No, I don't.
He's awesome. He came to the first showing up in person event, and he made up a song about the event, and he didn't even tell me ahead of time, and he started playing it during the event just out
Oh,
of nowhere.
wow.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
incredible.
that's
He's really talented.
fabulous. Oh,
Yeah, he's
neat.
so talented in many different ways. But yeah, thanks for being here, Ashik. It's awesome to see you. Um, Jess, as a mom, how would you say your breast cancer journey impacted your experience of motherhood, both during treatment and beyond?
Sure. So I really tied my identity to my breasts at the time. You know, I nursed my daughters, and that was a very beautiful experience that I had. So the ties that I had to my breasts were very intimate. And you know, when I had those removed, I wasn't sure how to maneuver that. I didn't know what that landscape looked like. And you know, I just walked through it again, step by step each day. I took it one step at a time, and whatever came at me, I tried to combat it or handle it in the best way possible for me and my family. So, but in terms of motherhood, you know, having to explain to your daughters why you don't have breasts, you know, is hard. It's a hard thing to do. Um, And I don't wish that
Yeah.
on anyone, but, you know, it's definitely an important conversation to have. And, you know, my concern is that I'm going to pass something on to my daughters, right? So that I don't want their future to look like, am I going to have cancer? That's one thing that just sticks in the back of my mind as a mom. I don't want my kids to ever have to go through that, you know?
Yeah, of course. I can understand that as a parent also. um, Everybody, let us know if you have any questions for Jess, put them in the chat. I'm sure she'd be happy to answer them. Uh, Jess, talk to us about, you've gotten into cancer advocacy. What inspired you to do that? Tell us what you do, how you do it, all the details.
Sure. So about 10 years after my diagnosis, I felt better again. I felt that I could share my story without crying. And I knew that it was time that I had to do that so that other people knew that you could get cancer at 33, that you do have to self-advocate for, you know, in those kinds of situations. If you don't feel that something is right, continue to seek help. So my journey with advocacy is that I'm a part of the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship CPAC committee, and I lobbied on Capitol Hill in 2023. So I was able to share my story then, and it was incredibly validating. And then the camaraderie of the other cancer survivors that you're around. It was an amazing experience. And what I do today, I have a website, and I also am a moderator on LinkedIn for a breast cancer survivor group. And then I have a Reddit subreddit for breast cancer survivors as well. So I'm just trying to get the word out about prevention and life after cancer. You can't have a life after cancer.
Yeah, for sure. And later on, if you want to drop the links for any of those things in the chat, feel free to do that so people can connect to your advocacy work.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Of course. And everybody, we're here at Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with Jess Whorton. Jess, talk to me about, you have a background in human resources, supporting people in their jobs. And how would you say your cancer journey has influenced how you connect and lead with others in professional life?
Sure. So, you know, my emotional intelligence has definitely increased along with my empathy skills and my listening skills. I practice the 40-60 method, which is where you talk 40% of the time and listen 60% of the time. So, you know, those are kinds of things that I do to advocate and go forward with things. In human resources, the way that I talk to people, the way that I direct them, you know, it's all about the employee and getting them back into their normal routine, finding a new normal. And it's been great to work with people in human resources. It's been a wonderful community, very supportive. And they just, you know, it's been great working in human resources and having that kind of support from people. And so what I do is I write articles about how to return to work. And I also support people with questions that they have. So if somebody is trying to get back into the workforce and they have, you know, a policy question, how do I do this? How do I go back to work? What are the steps that I need to take? What do I have to tell human resources? Those are all things that I work with them on. So yeah, there's a whole format to it, and people are very receptive to it, I have found.
That's great. That's great. And Ashik says, cancer may take parts of our body, but don't let it take your soul.
Oh, I love that too. That's great. Thank you, Asha.
And Russ Hedges here. He says, hey, welcome, Russ.
Hey.
I'm curious your perspective, Jess, on sharing our cancer journey when it comes to work. This is something I've thought about a lot at different points in my cancer journey, and even like sharing my story publicly, you know, especially a lot of people tune into this show from LinkedIn.
Yes.
Right. But sometimes employers aren't huge fans of hiring people who have cancer or who have had cancer for different reasons. I'm just curious your perspective with your HR background, if you want to share any thoughts about that.
Sure. So I have a large career gap on my resume as well. And that, from a human resource perspective, you're right, it doesn't look great. But there's a story behind it. There's a person behind it. So if you can get through the hiring process to talk to somebody, a real person, and make that human connection, that's really crucial. In terms of employers, you don't have to tell them anything. You can just say, I am sick, here's my doctor's note. Or you can share everything. There's different levels of sharing, and it's whatever you feel comfortable with, really. There is no law that says you have to share that you have cancer or that you had cancer. On my resume, I just put that I had a career break. That's all I need to say, and then I did a lot of volunteer work during that time. So I would throw in those kinds of opportunities as well to kind of make up for the career gap. But I have one also. And, if I just connect with somebody and let them know my story, and then it makes all the difference.
Yeah, I love that. I've tried all sorts of different scenarios. I've shared in interviews that I have cancer. I have totally not brought up cancer at all. Sometimes I bring up cancer just in the context of showing up perspectives on cancer because it helps highlight some of my skills, through this work I do.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Amanda Ferrero is here. Hi, Amanda. Welcome.
Hi.
You know Amanda?
Yes, we're on LinkedIn. We're connected on LinkedIn.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad you are connected on LinkedIn. But yeah, I always find it interesting. I had a job interview not that long ago, and I put on my resume that I was a cancer survivor. And this was a medical related job. And the doctor was like, I specifically called you because you said you're a cancer survivor on your resume. Isn't that interesting?
Oh, wow. That is very interesting. I love that perspective. That is definitely a shift. And that's wonderful. So how did you handle that? Yeah. What was the interaction like?
I mean, it was a very comfortable interview. And he also, this hasn't happened much in interviews to me, but we went through most of the interview, and at the end he said, Tim, so I will remember you as somebody who is driven, as somebody who is, I don't remember all the words, I should, but to get that feedback in an interview.
Oh yeah.
It was really nice, I haven't heard from him since, but it was a good experience. Anyway.
That's where you can follow up. A follow-up call is totally acceptable. Oh, you did? Okay.
Yes. And hi, Dr. Gina Anderson. She says, always be honest. Honesty always wins.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, and Dr. Gina Anderson has a podcast called the I Love Learning podcast, which is on Thursdays at 2:15 Eastern time. And you can check them out on her LinkedIn profile if you guys want to do that. But thanks for your comment, Gina, and everybody else. Jess, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you faced emotionally or mentally during your cancer journey, and how did you navigate that?
Sure. So, being allergic to chemotherapy and becoming a convalescent for many years afterwards, I saw my career slip away. And that was really how I identified with myself. So it was after a lot of counseling and a lot of support from my family, that I came around. And you're not defined by your job, you're defined by who you are as a person. And I really felt that I needed to make human connections. And so that's what I did. And, like on this podcast, making a connection with you and the audience, it's definitely life-changing and very inspiring.
Yeah, I agree. Making those connections with people is definitely special, for sure. And what would you say on the flip side we talked a little bit about challenges, but what would you say have been some of the positives that have come out of your cancer journey?
Sure. So the community, really the community support that comes out of the cancer journey that you have, the connections that you make. I felt like I know what life is about. Life is about making those human connections. At least that's what my life is about. And it really put things into perspective for me, about what's important. And, taking the time to let people know that they're appreciated and that they're supported. That's what life is about.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. If you guys agree with that, put in the chat, heck yeah. Ashik says, human first, physician second. There you go. There you go. And let us know in the chat, if you guys haven't already put, what is your connection to cancer and where are you tuning in from around the world? And also let us know, do you prefer tea, coffee, or water to drink? Because that's a burning question, right, Jess?
Absolutely. But that wasn't on my question list, so I don't know how to answer it.
It wasn't. It's a surprise question. It's a surprise one. Which team are you on when it comes to that?
I like a mushroom coffee.
Oh, I had that recently.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really good for you with the lion's mane, the ashwagandha. So I have that every morning. That's my little treat to myself. But yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yes, definitely. Mushroom coffee. Shout out to mushroom coffee. And Amanda says, cancer doesn't always have to be a negative experience. The cancer community is so amazing.
I agree with that. When I went to the CPAC committee in Washington, D.C., the camaraderie of everyone, they've all been through it. They know what it's like. They know that it's tough. And they're there to support you. And they're showing up. And that's beautiful.
Yes, definitely. And all these heck yeahs are coming in. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Human connection. Heck yeah. TMT. Yolanda is TMT. Mary says all of them together. All the beverages together. Ashik says that's a coffee logical question. Oh, and Amanda said she was there last year. I want to go.
Oh, nice. I think you should go. It was such a life-changing experience to be able to talk to people about what I had been through, about people that make the laws, that are change makers. You are directly impacting what they do and with your story. And you have a great story also, Tim. So I just think it would be a great opportunity for you. Yeah.
I think I would be so nervous. Do you get nervous talking to politicians?
Well, it was interesting because I didn't actually get to talk to the politicians. I talked to their staff members that are about half my age.
Okay.
But I had notes with me and I had a friend with me that made it really comforting for me. So, those things help when you have, little bits of comfort there, from friends or from your story that you're able to share on paper. I forget things when I get nervous. So I had my notebook with me the whole time to make sure that I kept all the bullet points. And I had my little scooter, which I don't recommend going in a little scooter through the Senate buildings because the elevators are really tiny and you go back and forth. So I was like, is this how I want to represent myself? But yeah, I went through the hallways in my little scooter and it was a blast. I had a great time.
That's awesome. Amanda's going to send me the link to register. Thank you, Amanda.
Oh, yay.
Yes. And she said they are just regular people. And she says you do walk a lot at the event. So
yes, you do walk a lot. So
yeah. So Jess, if you could share a message with someone newly diagnosed with breast cancer, especially a younger person, what would it be, do you think?
Sure. So I wrote this down so I didn't forget. But you're not broken. You're not alone. This diagnosis will change you, but it won't define who you are. Hold space for your fear, your rage, and your hope. Ask for help, say no when you need to, set those boundaries. And you're allowed to grieve and still glow. You can hold space for both of those things. So that's what I would say to somebody newly diagnosed.
I like that. You can grieve. Wait, say that again about grieving and gloating or
So,
not,
so
or
you are allowed to grieve and still glow. You can hold space for both of those things.
oh, okay. Yes, I like that. Um, Amanda says, how has cancer changed your mindset with mental health, work, family, etc.?
Sure. So for a long time, I really struggled with that aspect of my identity. Who was I as a cancer patient and then a survivor? What do I do? How do I move forward with my life? And my mindset changed after I let my body say it's okay to be what you're going to do. It's okay to do what you're going to do. So I have an autoimmune disorder as well. And so I have to take into consideration my energy levels. I only have so much energy in a day. And that's just the way it is. So my mindset is just acceptance, radical acceptance for what's happened, which is actually a great book, Radical Acceptance.
Oh, radical acceptance. I have to check it out. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Everybody write down radical acceptance. So sometimes we talk on this show, Jess, about some cancers are invisible cancers. Like my cancer is invisible, and I don't know if you considered yours invisible or your autoimmune condition invisible.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do, absolutely. And in
Mm.
invisible disabilities,
Yeah.
especially after a cancer diagnosis. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm just curious your perspective in terms of that invisibleness. Like, do you ever feel misunderstood, or has that invisible aspect of your cancer affected you in any ways?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely messes with your mind and it makes you question who you are and your identity. Um, you know, Having that kind of mindset, though, that you can move forward, that it's going to be okay and taking one step at a time, really, really helped. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Um, I know it can be challenging sometimes, right? Because people can't see your cancer or your illness, and so they just think you're fine, and
right.
and that's not just with cancer. It could be anything. Somebody going through any sort of illness or situation. Yeah. So I
There's
was just curious.
actually an organization that I can't remember the name of, but they have a dandelion lanyard. And you
Okay.
wear that if you have an invisible illness, invisible disability.
Really?
And I saw it in the
Oh,
airport in Denver. They had a stand where they were handing them out. And I was so moved by that because that really, that speaks volumes. That's saying, listen, I have an illness. Can you be gentle with me? Can you be a human with me? Can you
yeah.
make this connection? And it's a really bright colored dandelion or sunflower, as it is. Really bright colored green lanyard that you wear, and it just
Yeah.
says, I have an invisible disability. And it's just,
Mhm.
okay, I accept you. Let's
Yeah.
go. You know?
That's awesome. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the name of it. It's a great organization, though. And they're free lanyards. They'll mail them to you.
Okay.
So,
I'm gonna
yeah, I
have to
had some
Google
mail
it,
to,
like,
yes.
dandelions and invisible illness or something.
Yes, yes.
Try to
It
track them
might be
down.
sunflowers. Yes, but it's really great because you're making other people aware of things that you're going through. When you look at a
Yeah,
person, you don't know what they're dealing with, and that just
exactly.
says, you know what? I'm human. I'm dealing with some stuff. Let me deal with it. you know.
Yeah, and all the more reason to be kind, right? Because you never know what people are going through.
Oh, absolutely. Kindness does so much. Does so much. So it doesn't
Yeah.
take a lot to be kind. Taking that extra step.
Yeah, for sure. And Ashik says, "Jess, you're a role model for post-traumatic recovery."
Oh, thanks. Do I get my face on a box of cereal?
Uh, There you go. Excuse me. Ashik says a handle with carrot t-shirt,
Oh, I like that. We'll have to get
right?
you one made, Tim. Handle with care.
I like that. And Amanda says, how do you communicate to others about how you are feeling? Like, sorry, I can't, I have no energy. How do you face that?
I'm just honest. I'm coming down with a cold right now. I don't feel great, but I'm still showing up. I'm still making that effort to show up and be seen and share my story. So, I honesty, I feel like is the best policy. I just let people know where I'm at, and I hope they can meet me where I'm at. I assume that they can. I assume people will be kind. If it's not, then it's nothing off me. I don't care. But if I don't have the energy, I don't have the energy. I only have so much in space and time of day to do that. And if I'm tired or don't have energy, I just let people know. And I can't hold judgment, and I hope they don't hold judgment from me. So,
Do you ever worry about or have at any point in your journey worried about judgment from other people? Whether it's things you were just talking about, like, I don't know, you're not feeling good or you're tired, you have no energy, things like that? Or is that just that's never bothered you before?
no, it does bother me. It does bother me. I hope that I'm not judged. I hope that I don't look lazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to
Yeah.
come across as that. So if I'm in bed all day because I don't have energy, that's just the way it is. I have to come to terms with that because that's my life, right? So I think coming to terms
Yeah.
with things really helped. Took a long time, but I got there.
Good. Yeah, that's awesome. Everybody, we're here at Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with our incredible guest, Jess Whorton. Jess, how do you show up for yourself?
Well, I show up for myself by being kind to myself, by being nice to my body. I've been through a lot, and I just have to be gentle with it. So the handle with care t-shirt would be perfect.
There you go. There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah. And everybody who's watching also, whether you're watching live or on the replay, let us know, how do you show up for yourself? How do you, maybe make some time for self-care, whether it's maybe you like, I love nature. So
Oh,
if I'm not feeling good, or even if I am, being out in nature just feels good, the fresh air, things like that.
oh yeah. To
Yeah.
ground yourself is really important. And I think that's an awesome release. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, Jess, this is the last question of the show. And it is, what is your one word perspective on cancer?
Okay. So it's reckoning.
Reckoning. Why reckoning?
Yes, it is reckoning because it calls everything into question. And it demanded that I rebuild from the roots up. But out of that reckoning came power, purpose,
Oh.
and a life that I'm proud of.
Oh, that's incredible. I love that. I love that word and that explanation. And also Ashik is playing the guitar right now, in case you're wondering. And Yolanda
Oh,
says going for a walk. Uh,
nice.
yeah. Um, yeah, I like that. I like that. I think my one word, this question is so hard for me. But I think it's going to be, drum roll please, as I think of what it's going to be. Everybody in the comments. I don't know. I have so many thoughts in my head. Transformation is one word. Because it changed, like, being diagnosed with cancer and all the things that go along with that, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Um, and if you decide to share your cancer story, all the positive things that happen as a result of that, and connecting with incredible humans like yourself, Jess.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, it's true. I think transformation is my word. Yolanda says togetherness.
Oh, I like
Togetherness.
that. I like
That's
that.
a good one, right?
It takes a village,
Yeah,
for sure.
it does take a village. Yeah. So Jess, tell everybody, first of all, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell
Thank you for having me.
everybody, yeah, of course. Leave us with some parting hopeful thoughts, and also let us know where people can connect with you.
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. My website is thriveuprising.org. So I'll put that in the chat here.
I like that.
And I just share my journey with breast cancer. So feel free to contact me. I would love to connect with you. And
Yeah.
And my parting words is that I show up by honoring my limits.
Oh, I like that. Talk more about that. How do you do that?
Well, I celebrate my small wins, no matter how small, and I keep my sense of humor, right? You have to find humor in everything,
Yes.
I feel like, or you just can't survive. So
Yes.
laughter and then honest conversations with people, on your level.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. And connecting with people who have gone through similar things in some sort of way, right? Especially as a cancer survivor, having conversations with people that can understand you in some sort of ways is so incredible, right, Jess?
Oh, absolutely. Having that support behind you it makes all the difference in the world. Oh, you're welcome,
Yes.
Yolanda. Yeah, no problem.
And Ashik says, "You're an amazing person."
Oh, I love that. That's so good. I want to meet you.
Ashik is awesome. And so are you. All right. Thank you so much for being on the show, Jess. This has been great.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. What do you think? That was a pretty great show, right? Not pretty great, incredible show. So thank you so much to Jess for being on the show. And speaking of incredible guests, we're always looking for incredible guests who want to be on the show. And really anybody who has a connection to cancer. It could be a patient, a survivor, a supporter. Supporters could be caregivers. They could be mental health professionals. They could be oncologists. They could be oncology nurses, so many different, really anybody with a connection to cancer. I feel very passionately that it's important to make space for people, all people who have a connection to cancer. So if you would like to share your story when you are ready to, or your family, if you have a family member who has had cancer or is going through cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, please send me a direct message and I would love to have a conversation with you. We are actually looking for a guest for next week's show. We had a guest, but unfortunately, she's not able to join us. So if you would like to be a guest next week, even if you have been a guest on the show before and you'd like to be a repeat offender, volunteer, please let me know. That would be awesome. So let's all show up next week to support our mystery guests and support each other. And I will see everybody next week for another episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.